the theme is very personal to me. Living every day in the presence of those who refuse to acknowledge your humanity takes great courage. I love the TV show as well, maybe more than the book. Let's start the day just the way I like. A good workout to challenge ourselves early on. And a fresh cup of coffee to fuel us for what's ahead. Good morning and welcome to my Tuesday, a regular Tuesday here. Except that I'm gonna spend an hour downstairs like I did last week because I'm still not 100% confident that I can be seated for a long time. I'm trying to readapt, I would say, to get my body used to sit a little more in cafes and other places because I love to work from coffee shops, but I'm still recovering from my back injury. Sometimes I go downstairs. My building has this area like a co-working space, and I go and work from there for an hour so I can get used to be seated again because I have a whole book to edit. If you're new here, nice to meet you. I'm Luciana Couto, a health coach and wellness influencer. I like to inspire you to live a healthy lifestyle, and I try to lead by example. Last month I wrote a book, I wrote a novel in 24 days, but now I have to edit. I don't find a moment to do that because I need to sit. So yeah, without further ado, let's start the day. I need my coffee. With my coffee in hand, I headed down to work in the co-working space. I've been feeling much better lately, but sitting for too long is still a challenge. For an hour, I managed to catch up on a few tasks and finish editing a vlog from last week. So, I want to talk to you about this book that I read. Actually, I showed here when I got it, and it took me forever because of the size of the letters. I should have bought it on Kindle. Anyways, I want to talk about this book because the theme is very personal to me. It's about migration. Actually, it's a family saga. It tells the story of this family, this Korean family that migrates to Japan, and they live their lives there. They live a few generations there. And as an immigrant myself, I got touched by this story. Of course, their story is a lot worse than mine. I kind of came to Canada. I'm from Brazil. I came to Canada 9 years ago, and I came by choice because I was seeking for a better life. Actually, every time we migrate, it's because we believe that the other place is gonna be better for us, right? That's the whole point. But anyways, some migrations, they are, how can I say, more desired than others. Mine was very desired. I always had this dream of living in a good country, of living in a first world country. So for me, coming to Canada was a dream. For my husband as well. It was not their case. So that's the difference I wanna explain. But besides that, there are always problems that are almost the same when you are an immigrant. And I think nowadays the world needs more stories like this one. We need to understand each other more. We need to understand each other's background more. And this book helps a lot with that, especially because it sets in a time where the world was horrible place to live, I would say. Just as a context, when the matriarchy moves to Japan, I believe it's in the 1920s, Korea is under Japanese control. So they have to obey the Japanese empire while she's still living in Korea, but she goes to Japan and things get worse, of course. And then comes the First Great War and the Second Great War, a lot of things going on in the world, and of course Japan suffered a lot during the wars as well. They endured a lot of horrible things that thank God I didn't have to, but at the same time, I wish people sometimes would understand a little better, or at least would be a little more open to understand different backgrounds, different stories. And the best way to do that is by listening people that are different from us, right? And we immigrants, I'm gonna speak for myself, people who had similar migration, like the desired migration. We are very grateful for the country where we are. Actually, now I'm a Canadian citizen, so Canada is my country as well, and I'm very grateful for it. We acknowledge that we have a better life here. We acknowledge that we had so many more opportunities here, and I don't imagine myself coming back to my home country. At the same time, there is this duality of not feeling like you belong, and it's not a matter of how Canadians treat us, because they are very welcoming people, but we are not one of them. We'll never be. We have different backgrounds, therefore we have different ways of seeing life, different ways even to dress ourselves or to behave, or things that are not better or worse, but are just different. And I wish we could live in a world where people would be less judgmental and more not accepting, because you don't have to accept. It's not something wrong that you have to accept. I think you just have to kind of almost ignore. You just have to acknowledge that, yeah, my neighbors, they do different things, but who cares, and move on. So when I was reading the book, sometimes I would get very touched by it, by the stories, because as I said, they endured a lot, but at the same time, the way they felt a lot like the way we feel. And we are talking about different cultures here. I am not Asian, I am Latin American, and of course they are Koreans, they have to deal with Japanese, I have to deal with North Americans. The circumstances are different, the cultures are different, the behaviors are different, yet the issues are kind of similar, I would say. The feelings are similar. Yeah, that's a better word. The feelings. Because you feel like you don't belong, yet you are grateful for being there. You feel different, yet you feel proud of who you are. Sometimes there is this communication issues, and it's daily. That happens every day. By the moment you leave your country, you are going to face the challenges every day. You get used to it, you get comfortable facing the challenges, but the challenges are always there. And I think the world would be a better place if people could open their minds a little more about migration, about what is to be a foreigner, what is to be far away from your home, from your family, from your people, just for the sake of empathy and for the sake of learning new things, because I believe I have so many things to teach people about my country, about the way I live, as much as I have a lot to learn, and I try to learn as much as I can. So what I want to say is, if you have the opportunity to read this book or any other types of books that talks about migration, do it with an open heart, with an open mind. And next time you have the opportunity to talk to a foreigner, to talk to someone that is different than you. Maybe you were born in the same country, but you are way different. Open your mind, open your heart, listen to their side, because you have a lot to learn from them, as much they have a lot to learn from you. So tell your story to them as well. That's it. I think we should tell our stories more, and we should listen to others' stories more. And that way we can build a better world for everybody.
Leaving from St. Louis, headed for the coast. No telling when or if you're coming home. And half the time you knew me, you were out there on the road. It's a wonder that we've come this far at all. When the heather's blooming on the mountainside, and the north wind blows across the great divide, won't you tell me what it's like underneath that western sky, and whatever will become of you and I? Do you smell the oleander in the California breeze? Have you reached a place where redwoods meet the sea? Well, I will never know, dear.
And now, speaking a little more about the book, I would say like a little review. Well, not a review, because who am I to review a book, right? Let's say if I'm telling you, my friend, about this book, what I would tell. Well, I enjoy it. I would say I recommend it, but I have a few, how can I say, caveats or a few considerations about it. I liked the book. As I said, it was not easy to read because of the letters. If you, like me, have problem reading small letters, buy it on a Kindle or any other e-reader for that matter, but it's worth it. So I liked the story. I love sagas. I love family sagas. My favorite book is 100 Years of Solitude. When I read the premise of this book, I knew I had to read, because it reminded me of the Buendia story, but it's very different. There is no magic in here, for sure. There are a lot of characters, there are a few generations here, and sometimes I thought the characters, they were not deep enough. That's my opinion as a reader, not as, I don't know, a critic. Sometimes I think they felt short. Sometimes the author would introduce you a character, and then the character would disappear, and later on you would find out that the character died and you had no idea. For me, the most critical thing was with a particular character. At some point, the character does something that is out of the character, that is out of what I thought he was. Yeah, it's a man. It was a man. I mean, you perceived him in a way, and then there's this specific point where he does something which is way out of what you heard about him before, and I didn't like it. I think that was kind of a flaw in the character development that was shocking. And I also think that by the end of the book, you feel the pace speeding up, like if the author was more in a hurry to finish the book. So I felt like some stories could be told in a deeper way, in a more meaningful way, I would say. But besides that, the book is good, different from other family sagas. It's not hard to follow the thread, to follow the family. You remember the characters. Actually, I have some notes here in my journal. Let me see what I loved. I love the plot, of course. I love the idea, the theme, everything. I liked most of the characters. I love the concept, of course. However, the pace changed at some point. Characters disappeared, and often characters were unnecessary. A few of them, I would say. Something I liked, it's that is written by a woman's perspective. The author is a woman. The main character, the matriarch, of course, is a woman. Even though at some point we have this change of focus to male characters, you see that the strongest ones are the women in the story. They are the ones who keep the family together, to keep the family afloat. It's not they are harder workers than the men, but they are clever. At some point it gets clear that men are more anchored in their pride, and the women, even though they are more judged by their actions, they don't hesitate on leave that pride behind, and they do whatever they have to do to provide for their family. If you are a woman, you understand that, right? Because that's how we are. I like that you can see that in the book. Another thing that I liked about this book is that it made me realize how the depression on the 1930s actually affected the whole world. When I studied this topic in school, we studied, of course, beginning in the US, because that's where everything started, because of the crack of the stock markets, and you learn a lot about the consequence for the United States and for your own country. I learned a lot about the consequences for Brazil, but Brazil actually by that time didn't suffer that much. We kind of took the opportunity to develop our local industry, so it's not as bad as it was in America, for example. That I always knew, but I've never heard before how it was for other countries in the world. Maybe for Europe, of course, but Asia, no, nobody told me that. So when you see the consequences in Asia, in Japan, in Korea, and you see how bad it was, it gives you another perspective of a subject that you thought that you knew, but so I liked that because it forces you to change your perspective, and it forces you to understand that the world is the same, what is happening in the world is the same, but different places are gonna suffer differently and at different levels. That was a great lesson, at least for me. I didn't like the end, to be honest. I felt like the end was, how can I say without spoilers? It didn't conclude much. In my journal, I wrote this quote from the book that I love it, and I felt very touched by it because, as I said, I'm an immigrant. The quote is, "Living every day in the presence of those who refuse to acknowledge your humanity takes great courage." Yeah. Please, if you are not an immigrant, read more about migration. It's very important for the world. In my home country, the seasons aren't as distinct from one another as they are here in Canada. And it still fascinates me to see how the light that comes through the window changes throughout the year. I still look at it with the same wonder I had 9 years ago when I first arrived here. Because I will always be who I was born to be, but in different versions of myself, shaped by the accumulation of my experience, the places I've lived, and the people I've met along the way. This year, my husband and I became Canadian citizens, a journey that cost us a lot of time, bureaucracy, and money, only to realize that a piece of paper doesn't change who you are. I'm still the same person, curiously watching the shifting light through the window, still captivated by the trees that lose their leaves and seem to die each year, only to reborn in the spring. And what fascinates me most is realizing that these incredible details, so magical to my eyes, are just another day in the life of my neighbors. One more thing about the book. There is a TV show based on the book on Apple TV. You can watch Pachinko. I've been watching. I watched the first season so far, and what can I say about it? Sometimes I joke with my husband saying that it's a fanfic. Yeah, let me explain it. Sometimes I feel they got the same characters and they rewrote the whole plot. No, just kidding. It's not like that. The central story is there. If you like the book, chances are you are going to like the show. If you didn't read the book, please watch the show because the show is amazing. I love the show. It's well done. The cinematography is beautiful. The actors are amazing. Everything I love the TV show as well. Maybe more than the book. But the thing is, they changed a lot of things in the story, and one of the changes they did, although I didn't like it because I liked the character more in the book, it made sense. Remember when I told you there was this particular character that at some point he does something that is way out of character and you feel, whoa. I think they addressed that in the show because since the beginning they paint the character, I would say, they paint the character in a way that leads to that part. It's kind of they are building the story to get to that part, to address that part. So I think that's why they changed some things. So I understand that, but there are other things in the plot that they changed just for the sake of the show. I don't know. What I'm trying to say is the concept is the same, the theme is the same, both are amazing. If you read the book, I recommend the book, I recommend the show, but they changed a lot of things. Some things I see it, why? Some things I prefer, other things I don't like, but it doesn't matter. And by the end of the day, it's a great show, so I recommend the show as well. With the days being so short this time of the year, another incredible detail to me, I like to wrap up work earlier and take some time to relax before starting dinner prep. I began with the wild rice, as it takes longer to cook. Then I chopped onion and bell pepper to make beef fajitas. I also prepped a salad with lettuce, cherry tomatoes, and radishes, drizzled with balsamic vinegar for a fresh, tangy touch. I sauteed the beef with onions and peppers, seasoned with soy sauce, and added the cooked rice at the end for a hearty finish. I realized I'd defrosted a little less meat than I needed, so I fried 2 eggs to add some extra protein to our plates. It turned out to be a delicious, balanced meal. I wrote a novel in less than a month. And if you are curious about my process, watch this next video.